Good evening. Council will now hold a hearing on two ordinances which, if adopted, would adopt the 2021 edition of the International Property Maintenance Code, therefore repealing Ordinance 2022-01 and all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, and would adopt the 2021 edition of the International Fire Code, therefore repealing Ordinance 2022-02 and all other ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict therewith. A hearing on the ordinance has been advertised for this evening. This hearing is not an adjudicative hearing, so no stenographer is present this evening. This hearing is your opportunity to learn about the ordinance and let council know if you have an opinion on the proposed ordinance. I'll ask our township manager, Mr. William Gildea Walker, to provide an overview of the ordinances, and then there'll be an opportunity for comment from council, and then I'll ask for public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Whiteside. So, as council knows, every 3 years, the International Code Council, they update the property maintenance code, which they develop and establishes minimal standards for maintaining buildings and properties. And the purpose of the code is to protect public health, safety, and welfare by ensuring that buildings and properties and premises are maintained in a safe and sanitary condition. What confuses a lot of people is the years when we say we're adopting the 2021, and there's reasons for that. So the International Code Council, they put and developed the code in 2021. We have to wait for the state to do their adoption process, and Pennsylvania is usually 3 years behind the International Code Council. So, this evening, you're not considering this. You're just having a hearing on the property maintenance code. There are no major, substantial, significant changes in the code. Very minor. There's about 8 or 10 updates to the code. Very minor. The fire code, same thing. It sets minimum standards for fire safety, life safety, fire protection. And the codes are also adopted as a legal binding regulatory standards that the courts recognize. So it gives us and our code enforcement department powers of enforcement that the courts uphold. So like I said, every 3 years, they are a year behind, but every 3 years these codes are changed by the International Code Council, and then usually 3 years after that, Pennsylvania adopts them, and then the local municipalities and cities in the Commonwealth adopt them. So tonight you're just having a hearing. And that's really as simple as I can make it.
Question? Any public comment? There's none, then we'll now close this hearing and consider these ordinances at a future meeting. Do we want to wait till quarter of, or just go right to the next one?
They're still out in the hallway, so I can...
As soon as they come in.
Yep. Here they come. Yikes. What happened to my computer?
Is it right here?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we might have to wait 3 minutes for me to restart my computer.
I was ready, my computer's not.
Yeah. All right, council now calls to order a hearing on the conditional use applications filed by the Toll Mid-Atlantic LP Company on behalf of the Worth Family Irrevocable Trust for a parcel located at 1336 Limekiln Pike and an adjacent parcel which has no numbered address. The application seeks approval to permit construction of connections to the public water and sanitary sewer system, as well as a recreational trail that will cross through zones 1 and 2 of the riparian corridor and serve the applicant's property. Notice of tonight's hearings on the application was published as required by law, and it would be appropriate at this point for Mr. Gildea Walker to enter into the record those documents relating to the filing of the application and the public notice of the application.
All right, the township exhibits are T-1, which is the conditional use application. I don't have the tabs like you do. Stan? No, I'm good. Mine's different than his. T2 is the plan, the conditional use plan. One here, I'll get there. T3 is the riparian corridor management plan. T4 is resolution 2025-21 of Township Council scheduling this hearing. T5 is the legal notice for this hearing this evening. T6 is the proof of publication for the legal notice in the newspaper. T7 is the letter from me to the Horsham Planning Commission Chairman asking the Township Planning Commission to review the application. T8 is a letter from me to all property owners within 500 feet of the property, advising them of the conditional use hearing. T9 is a review letter from our township engineer, Gilmore and Associates. T10 is a review letter from the Horsham Water and Sewer Authority engineer, Gilmore and Associates. T11 is the Montgomery County Planning Commission review letter. T12 is our Horsham Township Planning Commission meeting minutes from their review of the application. And T13 is the zoning hearing board decision and order for the property.
If any person present this evening would like party status in either matter, it is necessary to let us know that now. Party status can be granted if you live close enough to the property to be aggrieved by the use proposed. Persons with party status may cross-examine the applicant's witnesses and may present witnesses of their own. Only a party may appeal the decision of council in this matter. If you do not request party status, you will still have the opportunity to express your opinion and tell council whether you would like to see the application granted or denied. Is there anyone present this evening who would like party status? Right. I'd like to take this opportunity to remind those of you here tonight that this hearing is being transcribed by a court reporter. Therefore, it's necessary that you not speak unless recognized by counsel. If you do speak, please give your name and address prior to making any comment so that the record attributes your remarks properly. I note that the applicant is present tonight, presented by counsel. Would you like to have your witnesses sworn in and begin your case?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Good evening, members of council. My name is Greg Edelman here on behalf of Toll Brothers. I'm here this evening with our project engineer, John Baiano from Eastern States Engineering, and if he could be sworn at this time, please.
Could you spell your full name, please?
John Baiano, spelled B-A-I-O-N-N-O.
You swear the testimony about the case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Prior to the hearing, I handed out a pre-marked exhibit packet, some of which is redundant, and I apologize, I was not privy to Mr. Walker's packet prior to the hearing, but for the record, if I could identify what I handed out was marked as Exhibits A1, which is a copy of the conditional use application and addendum without any exhibits. Exhibit A2 are copies of the deeds to the property. Exhibit A3 is a copy of Mr. Baiano's resume, his curriculum vitae. Exhibit A4 is a copy of the conditional use plans that you also have projected up here on the screen. Exhibit A5 is the copy of the zoning hearing board's decision and order dated October 8, 2024, and Exhibit A6 is a copy of the riparian corridor management plan. So it is nice to see that Mr. Walker and I look towards the same exhibits for this hearing, which is a good start. Just very briefly before Mr. Baiano testifies, we're here this evening for conditional use relief under sections 230-49E4A2A and E4B2B, and to the extent necessary, E4B1A. And those are all to permit sanitary, sewer, and water main connections in a proposed trail to cross the Zone 1 and Zone 2 of the riparian corridor, which is an overlay district that applies to this property as a result of the natural water course that traverses the property. Mr. Baiano has been sworn. I introduced his resume, curriculum vitae. I had asked that he be accepted by the council as an expert in civil engineering based upon his years of experience as well as his licensure as a professional engineer in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Be accepted as an expert. Council.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, John, if you could just very briefly for the board, provide a little bit of background on the proposed development and what is relevant this evening with respect to the sewer, water, and trail crossings in the riparian corridor. And I think we could do that by going through Exhibit A4, which is the conditional use plans.
Yes, thank you. The proposal is to build 34 brand-new single-family detached homes and preserve the historic house and farm that are currently there. We are located on Limekiln Pike, just south of the Lower State Road intersection, on the east side of Limekiln Pike. The property is traversed by two stream corridors, one along the, I'll call it the southeasterly portion, and that runs under Limekiln, runs northeasterly along our property. And the other one is along our northerly boundary, which runs southeasterly. They converge on property and then flow off-site.
And then if we could, I guess, turn to the second page of that. I don't know who's controlling it. That'd be great.
Actually, you know what, stay on the first page. Let me identify on the larger scale where our two areas of concern are. Gravity sewer currently exists along the one stream channel. It borders our easterly boundary. That's there today. On-site gravity is proposed through, or gravity pipes through a small open space corridor and will tie into the existing sanitary sewer that's on the property already. Domestic water is in Limekiln Pike up near State Road and south of us just across the stream corridor. But there is no water, domestic water in Limekiln along our frontage. So we'll be bringing it in, circulating it through our site, and then coming down, as opposed to down Limekiln and disturbing more along the frontage of the historic property, we're going to bring it along the back of it. And in doing so, we're going to cross the stream corridor, riparian corridors, prior to tying into the existing water main on the lower end of Limekiln. Our proposed trail is we have trail across the frontage of Limekiln, internal sidewalks. The trail runs along Limekiln, and then we're also proposing it to circle around and traverse some of the open space along the rear of the property on the other side of the stream channel. So we'll be crossing the riparian corridor with water in this location right near Limekiln, with trail near Limekiln, and sanitary sewer up in sight.
All right, and John, using Exhibit A4, can you just highlight the two zones? I know they're labeled there, but if you could trace them as well.
Yeah. The riparian corridor zone, the stream channel, again, we're talking about the stream channel along our easterly boundary. The first riparian corridor is 25 feet either side of the bank. So it's the narrow one, double red line either side. Riparian corridor 2, I think our batteries just died. There we go. Riparian corridor 2 is a minimum 50 feet off corridor 1 or to the extent of the floodplain. So portions of it are right parallel with riparian corridor 1, but we have floodplain down further to south, and riparian corridor 2 widens out at that location.
And now if we can go to the next sheet, sheet 2 or 3 of Exhibit A4. And John, looking at the diagram on the left of sheet 2 of 3, can you please Describe for council where the encroachments into the riparian corridor zone occur and why they occur.
Yeah, exhibit on the left side is just a blow-up. It's just south of the historic parcel. That area highlighted in blue is riparian corridor disturbance due to the water main. Area highlighted in green is disturbance due to the trail. And purple is a combined disturbance of both. So at one point where actually the water main will be under the trail at the crossing. This section is riparian corridor 2, so that's our disturbance, as well as this side of the stream. And then where the stream crosses under the lime kiln, we're in riparian corridor 1.
And then if we could do the same description on the diagram on the right as well.
Up on the right, internally to the site, between two of our lots, we have a narrow 20-foot wide open space corridor, and our sanitary sewer gravity drains through that into the existing sanitary sewer that's within a portion of riparian corridor 1, but the bulk of it's in riparian corridor 2.
Okay, and just below that diagram on Exhibit A4, Sheet 2 of 3, you have the total areas of the riparian corridor conservation district as well as the proposed disturbed areas that you just described. If you could just highlight those for the record as well.
Unfortunately, I have it all color-coded, but the colors came out, yes, I have it in front of me also, yeah. The total disturbance due to the water main is a total of, riparian corridor 2 is just over 9,000 square feet. Riparian corridor 1 is 1,600 square feet. For the trail, it's riparian corridor 1, it's about 1,200 feet. Riparian corridor 2, about 1,600 feet. For the sanitary sewer, riparian corridor 1, it's 300 square feet. Riparian corridor 2, just over 1,300 square feet. All told, we're disturbing just over 3,000 square feet of zone 1 and just short of 13,000 square feet of zone 2.
And percentage-wise, how much are those total disturbance areas?
We are disturbing total, our 3,100 square feet is about 1.35% of the total of zone 1 on site. And as far as zone 2, our 13,000 square feet is just under 3.7% of the total riparian corridor 2 on site.
And in connection with this proposed riparian corridor disturbance, did you also prepare a riparian corridor management plan?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and I've marked that as Exhibit A6 in our packet, which was dated March 28, 2025, last revised June 26, 2025. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes, it is.
And I believe that's what's up on the screen as well.
Correct.
And if you could just highlight for the board what is depicted here, and then how does this get implemented?
The main site, the stream corridors along the easterly boundary, northerly boundary, the brighter green, riparian corridor 1, the subdued green is riparian corridor 2.
Okay, and then what does it propose in terms of corridor management?
Strict conformance to, there is a set of guidelines which are hard to read on the plan. I don't know if you want me to read all through them, but just give you a summary. We'll work and initially we'll stake out and field identify locations where our disturbances will be. Disturbances with great care will be taken to minimize disturbance because we are in the critical area. Trees that are located in and around the area will be flagged. If they are adjacent, then we'll be careful with cutting the roots. If they are entirely within a disturbed area, we'll obviously work with your landscape and your engineer about what to do with the tree and how to either care for it or work on a replacement for the one tree or two trees or however many there might be.
Okay, and in the areas where you're actually digging or trenching, How are you proposing to revegetate them?
The plan did not have a true vegetation, as your consultants noted. At this point, we will be proposing a riparian buffer seed mix, which will provide a meadow-type grass along the top of the easements. Unfortunately, we can't plant trees or shrubs on easements, utility easements, and it'll provide again, the meadow grass-type plantings along the side of the path, along the trail.
Okay. And will this plan be part of the land development, subdivision and land development approval subject to the township's approval?
Yes, it is. It's part of the plan set.
All right, I have nothing further for Mr. Bayani.
I have one question for Eric, our engineer. These corridor crossings happen from time to time, and they all have a management plan. How do we, the township, monitor that they're following the management plan appropriately?
Well, during construction, we're on site to make sure that after they disturb it, that they're putting back what they put on the plan. After they build the houses and go away, and the HOA in this case owns and maintains it, it generally goes back to like a naturalized area. So there's not a whole lot of...
We have a significant presence during the activity?
Absolutely. Yeah, we're on site every day that they're on site doing work. So that's our role in the township, is to make sure what you approve is what they build out there.
Okay, thank you. That was my question. Anybody on council have any other questions? Anybody in the audience have a question? And I guess with that in mind, we'll close the hearing and we will make a decision on this at an upcoming meeting. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much this
Thank
evening.
you.
Appreciate it.
All right, should we call the meeting to order and rise to the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we start, I need to announce that prior to tonight's meeting, we did have a brief executive session to review litigation. First item tonight is opportunity for questions or comments from the public. Anybody have any questions or comments?
I just want to quick mention a big thank you to Dennis Haggerty and Chief Scott Fida in the back, as well as our township staff for their great work. I was on vacation, but I heard all good reports about National Night Out and the fireworks show, drone and fireworks show. So I wanted to just take a moment to thank Dennis and the chief and our other staff members, as well as Sam and Eric, who were in the dunk tank and took the plunge. So it was a great, as reported to me, it was a great evening attended by many residents and people. So again, you've heard me say it, our staff makes it look easy. But the time, the effort, and the hours that go into organizing all the logistics of these large events that we have is hours, months. And again, just wanted to take a minute to thank Dennis and thank the chief for their time and putting the fireworks show and National Night Out together.
Great job, guys. Next, we have a presentation on the reforestation project by Arch Wild and Ecological Restoration Company. Bill, do you have any comments on this?
Sure. So council knows we've been at the Limekill Pike and Horsham Road intersection project for a number of years with engineering and right-of-way acquisition, and hopefully getting closer to go out to bid later this year for construction. As part of that project and road expansion, we're required by state guidelines and regulations to control stormwater. And as part of that project, we had to construct 3 detention basins for the project. Let's see if this works, and there we go. So this is Horsham Road and Limekill Pike coming down Horsham Road. And then a storm pipe is taking stormwater back into Cedar Hill Road Park, where one of the 3 basins is going to be constructed for the project. And I'll show you another quick. This is another picture of the basin. This is the pipe coming in off of Horsham Road. These are our existing trails back into the nature area of Cedar Hill Road Park. And then this is the trail that goes around the outfield of the softball field. And this is the basin that will be constructed. So, as you know, we in Horsham take our environment and our trees they're very important to us. And we are mitigating. It's not required for us to do, but we are, there we go. We are mitigating the trees that we have to remove for that project, as well as we are mitigating trees in Deep Meadow Park. So we had to remove trees for the Miracle Field construction. So there's trees going in Deep Meadow Park. And as you know, we're going to talk about in the presentation after our tree consultants, Arc Wild is done. But we've planted a lot of trees since the tornado. Our open space in our park system were pretty devastated with the tornado that hit us in September of 2021. So, and we have our tree giveaways, and our company here this evening, Arc Wild, Austin and Jesse are here. That this is the company that we buy our trees from for our tree giveaways, and also when our Public Works Department needs to replace trees on our facilities and in our parks and open space, they go to Arc Wild for those trees. So this is a little bit different. So they're going to give you a presentation for Cedar Hill Park. This is a reforestation project. So they are here this evening, and I'll ask Austin and Jesse to come up to one of the tables and present and go through the project with you.
All right, thank you for the introduction, Bill. We're happy to be here. My name is Jesse Hart. I'm the program manager for Arc Wild. I'm here with one of our project managers, Austin Miller. We will try to keep it short. We know your time is valuable. I want to go over a few things as it relates to reforestation. We'll cover a short background on us as an organization, talk about reforestation as a concept, and talk about the project at Cedar Hills. Next slide, please. This is our agenda. Next slide, please. So Arc Wild's been around for about 20 years. We're a full-service ecological restoration firm based in Quakertown, Bucks County, but we work throughout the Mid-Atlantic, so this is actually somewhat close to home for us, which is a nice change of pace. We work on all types of restoration projects. We have our own native plant nursery, so we do very small reforestation projects, very large, which we'll talk about this evening, as small as quarter acre up to a couple hundred acres. Also do meadows and rain gardens, design, implementation, maintenance. Our team consists of ecologists, botanists, data scientists, field technicians. We're an interesting organization, and are happy to be here. So we do many different types of projects, but follow a similar model for each one of them, a similar process, which Austin's going to talk about on the next slide.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having us out here tonight. So every project for us basically starts the same way, and it starts similar, I'm sure, for many organizations, which is we want to make sure we can see the site in person. So that site visit's going to be the first important chunk. We're going to try to see the site and really understand every part about it. So that's, collecting data as much as, access points, where we can actually access the site from. The grade, is the grade an issue in any way, shape, or form? Goals of the client, if the client's there with us, we can talk about their goals, maybe layout of plants, whatever it might be. But at that same time, we're also just as important to us is collecting data on the ecological function of the site. So, for instance, with Deep Meadow Park, I remember we were there and we were walking around behind where you said the Miracle Field. The new Miracle Field is being built. We're actually that's part of where we're gonna be planting some of the trees there in Deep Meadow Park. So when we were walking around, Jesse and I noticed that it's a pretty good grade that comes down towards that field. And there's a path that comes down above there. And between the path and the field, there was actually this little depression in the landscape. So there was a lot of water coming down, but then it hits this depression. And there were a couple particular species that we saw in there, a couple sedges and a common rush. And these are plants that like consistent moisture throughout the year. So right then and there, we can see that there's a lot of water coming down and it sits in that spot, in that depression. So the water's not draining out. So that gives you a little idea of this, the soil you're working with. So we're looking at not only that, but so water is one of those factors we're going to look at. That's really important when you're trying to figure out how a site's functioning. Another one is light. So at Deep Meadow Park, most of those trees are actually going to be out in full sun. There is a tree line there, but where we're planting is going to be away from that. And that helps, again, that's one of those deciding factors when you're deciding what to plant. And then one of the more important factors to keep in mind is that soil. So I mentioned that water isn't draining out very quickly from that spot, and that's actually the case for all of Deep Meadow Park. So it's actually pretty clay-heavy soil. So that helps. That's another factor to keep in mind when we're talking about planting there. And this is actually pretty similar for the reforestation site at Cedar Hill Park. They have very similar soils. So that helps to inform when we're doing that larger planting at that site. If you don't mind going to the next slide. So, but before we kind of get into the details of Cedar Hill Park and that reforestation, I wanted to touch on, what reforestation is, why it's important, and Jesse will talk about some projects then that we've completed and why our process in figuring out how these sites are working is important. So to us, reforestation isn't just replanting trees, but it's replanting trees in the right location and making sure that that's the right species, of course. So for the case of Cedar Hill Park, we're not going to be planting tropical plants, of course. That's, a bit extreme, but the point is you can have the right intentions but go about it the wrong way. So that's something that we're trying to avoid by making sure to collect this data and make sure we're planting trees where they used to be. You can go ahead to the next slide. So, and that's, the whole point of reforesting, of course, is getting some of these benefits that go along with it. We're not just reforesting for fun, although it can be fun. When you get into planting mode, it can be exciting as you're getting through the work. So some of the benefits of reforestation are, that soil erosion prevention. So I think about Cedar Hill Park, and where that reforestation is, there's a good grade there. So what's happening is, because it's been a farm field for a long time, is, of course, they've tilled it over and over again, and it causes the soil to be loose, and it causes that soil to run off, and especially the topsoil to run off. And, that will be an important factor I mentioned in a little bit. So when you replant, that's going to slow that soil down, and it's going to stop it from maybe entering a stream, which actually a stream lies not far beyond where we're reforesting. So, and that's going to actually end up helping on the end of savings for the township as a whole, because you're not having that sediment runoff and that water pollution entering the stream. So, and in turn, that'll increase the quality of the water. And of course, as a byproduct of photosynthesis, those trees are creating oxygen, so that helps to increase the quality of the air. An important factor for us always with any planting is the wildlife habitat. A real fun part of my job is getting to be out and about any season of the year and being able to see a plethora of different species in some of the plantings and some of the areas that we get to explore. So that's always a huge factor when you're building a habitat. And in this case, young forest is actually pretty uncommon in Penn's Woods anymore. So having a young forest, even a small parcel as small as Cedar Hill Forest, which is a little under an acre, it's a new, different style of habitat that different species are going to use compared to the mature woods that are surrounding that area. So another important factor, of course, is carbon sequestration. We want to make sure that we're sequestering as much carbon as possible. We're starting to lower that as globally, but it's still very high levels of carbon being released into the environment regularly. And then going back kind of to that soil erosion, we're also trying to cut back on flooding. So that water's running off. It's not only just taking the soil with it, it's taking itself with it. It's running right into that stream, and it's going down, and it's going to be turn into flooding, if not here, then a township or a municipality down the road. So the more water that gets soaked up by this reforestation, the better, because it's less water entering whatever streams and eventually rivers and so on.
Is sequestration and carbon capture an interchangeable term, or are they different things?
I think carbon capture is usually used in the sense of actually creating a technology that captures carbon out of the atmosphere, as opposed to a natural process like carbon sequestration. But I'm honest, don't quote me on that. I'm not very familiar with it. So these are some of the factors, like I said, that we keep in mind as we're, talking with some of our clients about reforestation projects, and we tie that into our process. And Jesse's going to talk a little bit about that with some of the projects that we've completed recently.
Next slide, please. So the theme that Austin has set up for me is that species selection and planting are the key to success, if success means living trees. Some of our previous projects here are, one of our more recent and larger projects in the top left was a public project on state game land property where their objectives were wildlife habitat. They wanted a grid system on their 260 acres with the same set of tree species, which in our opinion wasn't going to work based on our modeling and the opinion of our ecologists. So we worked with them to adjust layout and create a more natural system. And so far everything in that project is looking good. One other example in the top right, Austin completed a park and street tree planting project last fall. So it's been almost a year now, and I think last evaluation there was 94% survivability, which is high, to be honest, which we were pleased with. Combination of proper planting, species selection, watering, deer protection, staking, all things that are included in the projects being proposed. So I can go on and on about previous planting projects, but those are some of the highlights from the past 12 months.
Could I ask a question? What is the typical percentage of survival?
Varies widely depending on place and starting size. If you're using the smallest and cheapest material and just trying to get as many stems in the ground, you might be looking at 30 or 40%. 70 to 80 is considered pretty good. And,
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we can go to the next slide now and talk about your project.
Right. So getting some more details here on Cedar Hill Park reforestation itself. So this is a general outline of the area that we're looking to reforest. It's about 3/4 of an acre, give or take. And currently, as I said before, is just an old farm field. I don't think it's being used anymore, but I'm not sure. It seemed like the whole space was an old farm field. So, and you can go ahead and go to the next slide. So, and I did already have this chart up before, but this is that same chart again. And to get into a little bit more detail about what this chart actually means. So we take all that data that we collected before, soil, water, light, we put it in, and we put it into a model that actually one of our data scientists created. And that brings a little bit of extra data from online, most importantly, weather data for the last couple of decades. And what it gives us is this, it shoots out this chart. And so each chart is going to be a little different based on those conditions that we've, based on that data that we've collected. So what this chart tells me is that, and you can see pretty clearly, you have, all the way to the left, you have winter and spring, and you can see they're pretty moist, actually. And this is the ball fields at Deep Meadow Park, but it's also, again, the same soil at Cedar Hill. So it's pretty wet because it's that silty clay. So clay, when it's exposed to a lot of moisture, which of course we get a good amount of moisture over winter and spring, it's going to hold on to it. However, once it starts to dry out in the summer months, you can see what happens. It dips way down. So Clay, once it starts to dry out, it just lets go of everything, and it turns into, solid rock almost, it seems like. So because of that silt, it does hold on to some moisture, so that's, that silty clay, so it doesn't dry out quite as much as it could, but it dries out pretty significantly. And then finally, when it gets to fall again, you get that moisture back, the clay takes that water and it holds onto it. So what this means for the planting itself is that that large fluctuation in moisture actually limits our species considerably, in the sense that you need to have species that can handle that fluctuation. So I have, a couple examples down below. Red oak, yes, or you have some generalist species, you can call them, that you'll find in a lot of the woods around here. Red oak, red maple, tulip poplar, black cherry. These species you'll find in a plethora of habitats. You'll find them in lowlands, you'll find them in uplands, because they can handle these different moisture levels to some extent. Whereas species like American mountain ash or witch hazel, things like that, they need more specific conditions. So American mountain ash likes a consistent level of moisture throughout the year. It doesn't like too much, it doesn't like too little. If it changes too much, that species is actually going to die out pretty quickly. So when we're looking at, degraded soil like we have at Deep Meadow Park or at Cedar Hill Park, we're looking for those species that can handle that difference in moisture. So that's a little bit of the detail of the data, and then we can go into a quick, just a little bit of what goes into actually making the work happen. So we have our idea of what species we can use, but we need to figure out, the work plan itself. So what we used before we even decided on this, what species we generally wanted to use, we had to figure out how we were going to plant it, and we used a pretty typical fashioned planting style, which is to use a grid. This makes it easier to manage the space before and after planting. Because generally speaking, when you're maintaining these spaces, as I have below, you're going to mow between the rows so that you can get easier access in between, so that you can do, whatever kind of maintenance you're having to do. If the cages are broken and they need replacing, if the trees are dead and they need replacing, if we need to deal with invasive species, it's just easier to access. So with Cedar Hill Park, we used a 12 by 12 grid, so that gets us about 250 trees, give or take, total to fill that space with trees. And then before the work can actually begin, the township's going to be nice enough to mow the field for us ahead of time, so that'll be ready for us to go right in. And then it's just layout and planting. We can actually generally get it done pretty quickly once if you have enough people and you have the system down. You have a couple people that lay out the trees the day of, make sure they're well watered ahead of time, of course. You'll have some folks that are then coming behind and planting, some folks that are coming behind them and installing those cages. So in this case, we're using cages because we're using 3-gallon material. So it's a little bigger. Otherwise, if we're using smaller material, as we had in one of our previous pictures, you can see those plastic tubes. We would usually use those. They're a little bit more economical especially when you're at species that are small enough to fit inside. And I think I'm going to hand it off to Jesse to talk about, once it's planted, what it's going to look like.
I just have a question on the maintenance. If you're in an area where you have a lot of vines causing the deforestation, what is the process to try and inhibit the revining of juvenile trees?
Right. So ideally, you're going to take care of that ahead of time. At Cedar Hill Park, we didn't see much for vines within the field itself, and it's something that you definitely want to continue to monitor, and if you see them, to deal with them promptly. Unfortunately, if those vines do come into the trees themselves, you have to do the tedious task of taking those vines off and preferably treating the stem, or if you can pull out the whole root, that's of course more ideal. But yeah, it does come down to just making sure that you prep that area ahead of time. So that would be something, even if during our layout, and if we actually do notice some vines, that can be something that we can quickly manage while we're laying out the trees, or it might even be that we come a couple of days ahead of time for one last check, So we'll do that sometimes if we do have major concerns about certain species that might be a nuisance.
Next slide, please. So a couple of factors for timeline for growth. There's one consideration of your starting size, which Austin mentioned was going to be a 3-gallon container. The tree pictured in the image was likely a 1 inch or 1.5 inch B&B tree, which has a more instant impact, more visual, but tends to take longer to become established. Root system, transplant shock, just requires a little bit more care and attention. So starting with a smaller container has some advantages. The other factor to consider is, and goes along with species selection, is speed to cover, which is terminology related to how quickly the plants are going to go or grow, and the breakdown of fast-growing species versus slow-growing species. So it's one consideration if you're looking to have the fastest speed to cover, you want the fastest-growing trees. If you're looking for the ultimate wildlife habitat, a lot of those trees grow a little bit slower. Municipalities tend to balance those two factors, and it's one of the things that Austin will look to balance in this project, is trying to get canopy cover established and also think about how the forest will function in 50, 100, 200 years. And I think that's all we have.
A question. So you mentioned the 12 by 12 grid. Does that just mean that there's trees every 12 feet? Or what is that?
Yeah, so there's a tree here and there's a tree 12 feet here, 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 all around. Yep.
And then so you haven't picked out the species that will go into the lot yet, or have you?
We don't have a finalized list, no. We have it narrowed down thanks to the data, but it's not quite finalized yet.
And when that, presumably multiple species would go in, not just like one type, or?
Right, so as Jesse was mentioning, we're going to make sure that it's a good balance of trees that will grow fairly quickly, but also some that have a little bit more wildlife value. So those are generally your oaks, your hickories. They take a little bit longer to grow and establish.
And they just get like sprinkled in? Not exactly like oak, like a section of it, right?
Right, so again, it depends on the goals. I think we do want speed to cover here, so we will have a good amount of those fast-growing species, but we'll also have a good amount of those slower-growing species. So it's not necessarily going to be 50-50, but it's also not going to be 90-10.
But it's not going to be like a 50-50 split, like they get like intermixed,
exactly.
is what I was asking.
It's all mixed in, exactly, so that you have those fast-growing species that help to get the cover all throughout the site, and then the slow-growing species kind of underneath, but then they'll eventually be the mature canopy that lasts.
I know our tree replacement program is a point of pride, and we're going to be talking about some of our other programs as well. Have you ever done or do kind of an educational piece with like a board that's there for when people are in that park or visiting the site to understand the process and to know that this is happening and why it's happening and what it's for? Or is that an us thing?
No, yeah, we can absolutely. So you're talking about like in the case of the reforestation, maybe one of the days we're planting, you would come out and kind of see what's happening and we can walk you through it, is kind of what you're thinking?
No, like something that is stable, that's there, that someone who happens to be walking by and says, what is going on here?
I see.
They get their answers on the spot.
On the sign, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that is something we've helped municipalities with before. I don't know if it's something that we've specifically created on our own. I don't know if you have more knowledge about that.
We have designers on the team that can create a sign. We've done interpretive signage before, so it could be included. It's a good idea.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
If you look, we have a trail that goes right by it. So we can put up like before pictures after while you're planting. We sort of have something like that. God, it's 20 years old for the creek bank stabilization down in Kohler Park.
Right.
The Heritage Conservancy did with us.
Yeah, and I think this first came up with one of the basins in Sawmill, that people were wondering what was going on and what was happening. And it could be something that has a QR code that goes to a website with more information. It doesn't have to be all-encompassing, and that could also make it that it's not static as the project progresses.
We almost always include temporary signage that just communicates that reforestation is happening, but we can work with you guys on a more permanent interpretive sign.
And I think it's also that reforestation is happening, but why? So people saying like, we took down trees for Miracle Field, what next? And saying, this is where they are now, that these are the trees that are replacing those, or for the Lime Kiln and Horsham Road widening.
So if You said previously that 70 to 80% of survival is like a good target. I guess, what do you anticipate maybe with the trees in our area and what you're, I know you don't have a final list of conceiving of planning, like what do you expect there and what do you do with the other, 30 to 40% that might not survive? If 70 to 80% is optimistic, right? If that's good, let's just say it's a little bit lower too. That could be a significant amount. So what happens in those cases?
So that it's a little bit on a case-by-case basis with the municipality and goes into kind of what we agree upon. Generally speaking, we have a goal that we reach, which I don't know if we agreed upon a goal for this specific project, but I mean, we of course want to have 100% if we can, but generally we're looking at about 80%, 70% is a little low, but 80 to 90 is what we're looking for, because that's, even though you're losing, in this case, you're talking 20 to 40 trees, it's over an entire space, and those trees, especially if we divvy them up in a sensible way, you won't even notice that those 20 to 40 trees didn't make it. So that's the whole idea, is you actually put this grid system in knowing that you are probably going to lose some of them. Using the 3-gallon containers actually tells me that we should have a little bit better survivability, because generally you're using 1 gallon or even bare root trees, which those are the ones that you're going to get that 30-40% survivability. So I think that 80 to 90 is pretty a pretty solid goal for this project.
So you overplant with the anticipation that some don't survive, and then you don't worry about that 10 to 20% that don't make it.
Exactly. Yeah. If it gets to be more than that, then we start to look at replacement. We want to keep at that goal, but otherwise, yeah.
What trees did we use for the tree giveaway?
Well, what species?
Or what? No, gallons.
Oh, they were larger. I think they were 7-gallon that we did for the tree giveaway.
Oh, gotcha.
That we bought from your nursery.
It's not me. It's the whole neighborhood.
Sam might want to talk to you after the meeting.
Oh, what?
Survivability.
Oh, look.
I mean, it's still alive. It just doesn't look good.
What species is it?
It was a dogwood.
Oh, okay, flowering dogwood.
Yeah, there was. I mean, I know, like sleep, creep, leaf, right? I got my expectations level, but I just noticed, like walking around my neighbors.
You didn't water them. That's the key in planning.
Sorry, I can't help. Did it die back at all, or it's just still small?
No, it's like the top of it kind of didn't survive, and then like, it's starting to grow again, but it's like at the bottom.
Oh, okay, yeah. So that with smaller tree species like that, it should grow back without a problem. You can always cut back that dead stem eventually, but it seems like as long as it's got new life to it, it should pull through. It does depend, and that's kind of what we're talking about with keeping an eye on your soil. So when you go to plant a tree or even choose one, understanding what kind of soil you have and what kind of soil that tree can handle. So we can supply the trees, but unfortunately in an event like that, we can't necessarily we can't go around and test the soil. But even if you can get an idea, if your soil's similar to Deep Meadow Park, then that flowering dogwood's maybe not going to do well because it likes to have better draining soil. So that can also be something that's affecting it.
I just want to also point out and thank, we have some of our environmental advisory board members in the audience, Mark and Robert, as well as our staff liaison to the EAB, Larry Burns. So thank you for attending this evening. We got another presentation after this, but thank you. And I also believe, Austin, you were or still are on the Ambler Borough EAC?
Lansdale.
Lansdale, sorry.
No, that's all right.
Just wanted to point out our EAB members for coming out tonight.
I think it's great. We talked about native species and all that, so it's nice to see these go in and, I guess your question is quite answered, the 12 by 12, ultimately as they grow and forests become bigger, trees get big. It's always going to have, something, die back, or I guess ultimately your species use, right? I mean, some will grow taller, some are understory, and this is just going to be trees, or there will be any understory?
Generally,
or no?
with a planting like this, the idea is to get that speed to cover, so it's going to be maintained, the understory will basically be maintained to some extent, and the trees, it's going to be dominated by trees. And then that's one of those things that down the line is something that, you have to consider how you want that understory to.
Right.
And, and of course continue to maintain it, because invasives are inevitably going to want to keep taking over that space.
Right, when they're getting hit by a personal, yes, you plant a native meadow, right, or something like that, and you don't have somebody that knows what is the native species and what is the invasive species, what should stay, what should go.
Right.
I think that's what is the key, with the township. I know we've got rain gardens and we've replanted, retention basins with native species. But yet like I said, what is what you want to stay.
Right, and what you want to get going.
Talk on the environmental advisory board. But yes, we have a massive group of engineers. We'll pick this section of forest and we'll go in with our shovels and, we'll have a great day. But it's live,
Oh, yeah.
And then as far as this project, like just watering, I mean, I joke about it, but that's the key. Like, some of these smaller plants, ultimately everything, does your company water them? Was the township going to have to go out, I guess, and do that?
Yeah, so our Public Works, Kyle Lynch, our Assistant Public Works Director who oversees our park and open space system, has been working with Austin and Jesse on this project. But yes, if we get into a dry spell or something, or they advise us, like, guys, it's no rain in 2 weeks, you got to get out there. We do have tanks, water tanks that we use, and tree bags too. So there's different options. But yeah, Public Works is working with them hand in hand, and actually before they leave, when the project's done, our Public Works team will probably come out and get trained by them on the maintenance of what we have to do. So yeah, Public Works is working side by side with them.
Right. Excellent.
Hey, anything else? Jesse, Austin, thank you for this presentation. It was really informative. Thank you for the good work you do, and particularly the good work you're doing for us. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
All right, we're going to take a quick picture before you're at the end. And Mark and Robert, if you feel comfortable coming up too, come on up.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3.
All right, next we're going to have a presentation on the township's environmental initiatives. Bill?
So one thing that, out there that we don't get I wanted to sort of tag off this reforestation project with other things that we do in town environmentally, that, a lot of our residents, they see construction. They see new housing developments, they're commercial developments, they see road projects, and it's hard for them to see and recognize the environmental initiatives and the environmental projects, because they just don't stand out. So a lot of people think that all sometimes we care about is development, and we don't care about the environment. So I wanted to take a few moments just to share with everyone everything that we do in Horsham. So Horsham Township has a long-standing commitment. Being environmentally conscious isn't a trend, it's a long-standing commitment woven into everyday decision-making. For years, Horsham has taken a proactive approach to sustainability, steadily implementing green initiatives that reduce environmental impact, improve community health, and serve as a model for surrounding municipalities. From small upgrades to large-scale projects, this commitment didn't start overnight. The township has consistently prioritized eco-friendly improvements across infrastructure, facilities, and services. One thing we did was change all of our traffic signals and street lamps in the township to LED. We were the first municipality in Montgomery County to convert all of our street lights and traffic signals to LED. Going back to high school science, what is carbon dioxide emissions? They refer to the release of carbon dioxide gas into the atmosphere This is primarily caused by the burning of fossil fuels for energy in various sectors like electricity, production, transportation, industry. And CO2 is a greenhouse gas, and its increased concentration in the atmosphere damages our environment. So one project that council has done is our solar energy project. We again, first in Montgomery County, to convert all of our facilities to solar power. So our township building and community center, they went to solar power in December of 2024. And as of yesterday, our environmental benefits are the CO2 emissions saved is 170,211.05 pounds, and equivalent to over 1,200 trees being planted. Our library went live in November of 2024 with solar power, and their CO2 emissions are saved is, I'm not going to read all these numbers because I don't want to be here all night. So you can see, and the trees planted, again, over 1,200. Our police station, who has a carport as well as solar panels on the roof, they went live in December of 2024, and they're up to over 563,000 pounds and over 4,200 trees. Our public works facility, they went live in March of 2024 on solar power, and they're already up to 410,000 pounds and over 3,100 trees planted. So all in all of our facilities in Horsham, for almost going on a year, is over 1.3 million pounds of CO2 emissions saved and almost 10,000 trees planted. Again, we're pretty proud of that project. Those are the environmental benefits, but financial benefits are we're not paying for electricity.
Real quick question,
yeah.
sorry. Do Public Works and Police just have that many more panels? That's why they're more emission saved?
Yes, they have more
Okay,
panels, yes. We have over 900 acres of parks and open space that we own, and we're one of the largest in Montgomery County with open space and parks acreage. So we've been working at something over the last 4 years with stormwater basins, the ones that were built in the 1980s and 90s that were all grass and concrete channels from pipe to pipe. We spent almost, over the last 4 years, almost $1 million converting basins into bioretention basins, as well as our most recent Pennypack Creek bank restoration project. We were a partner with the Montgomery County and Pennsylvania, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, to permanently preserve the 35 acres of Pennypack Farm on the College Settlement property. So we've protected 35 acres permanently from development in Horsham Township, which hopefully will continue to be our community sustainable farm. We were a big partner in that financially. And something that seems common and is common in Horsham is our street sweeper. We had that thing going as many days a year as we can. As if it's not snowing or there's not a major project or something happening, we have our street sweeper going continuously. And each year we prevent almost 50 tons of road debris from entering our local streams by our street sweeper picking it up. You, council, since 2012 have been using iPads, so we've been paperless. Tree planting and reforestation. So we already touched on the Cedar Hill Road Park, where we're reforesting a certain section of the former farm field, but also in the active where the playground is, where the softball field and multi-purpose field is, we're going to be planting an additional 26 trees around the active recreation park or section of the park. Deep Meadow Park, we'll see about 50 trees planted in place of the trees that were removed for the field. and we already planted 273 trees in Lukens Park. 171 in Lukens Park. The library, we planted 42. The Hearn property, 60. That was right after the tornado. All those locations got hit heavily, and we were able to replace trees at each of those locations. Community involvement in programs. We talked about the eco-vent. This year we're having our third tree giveaway, our first two. We gave away 375 native trees on the first 2 years. This year we upped it thanks to your approval of the budget. We were able to add trees, so this year it'll be 150 trees that'll be given away on October 4th. And through our eco event, we've collected over 5,000 pounds of electronics, over almost 200 pounds of clothing, shredded almost 3.5 tons of paper, which is equivalent to saving 59 trees. And then we also have our leaf program where the third Saturday of each month, residents can bring their leaf and yard waste to our public works facility, and over 50 tons of debris from that is kept out of the landfills and is recycled. Greener transportation, as you know, we have our HOPS bus for our office park. So not only are we supporting things environmentally, we're supporting public transportation where we pick up people at the Fort Washington train station free of charge and bus them into two of our largest office parks in Horsham. There is a bike rack on the front of the bus now, so the bus is powered by propane. Other ways we're trying to be environmentally sensitive. Our electric vehicle charging stations here at the Township building and at the library. And since we put them in 2023, we have had over 2,500 charging sessions with over 300 unique users, and over 1,900 kilograms of greenhouse gas emissions have been prevented, and equivalent to 475 trees. As you know, right outside these doors in our lobby, eyeglasses, people can bring their eyeglasses, cell phones, ink cartridges, and flags to be recycled. The eyeglasses, as you know, is a local doctor, Dr. Dave McPhillips, at the eye doctor place down at Horsham and Babylon. He takes them, he refurbishes them, and he takes them to Haiti. And he does through a doctor's eye doctor, through a doctor organization. He does eye checkups down there, and then is able to give glasses to people that need them. Cell phones and ink cartridges are dropped off here, and the Rotary Club recycles them and uses that money for high school scholarships, college scholarships for high school students. And then the flags are taken to the American Legion for disposal. And then we have our textile recycling at Lukens Park and the library, where you can drop off clothing and shoes, and they get reused for people. And I know Mark and Robert and Larry know this well. Bird Town, our Environmental Advisory Board, established us as a bird town, and they worked hard at that, and we qualified and were certified as a bird town PA. And I know they're working on a lot of and discussing programs and stuff for the residents. So I just wanted to take a few moments to, share with everybody about all that we do for the environment in Horsham Township. And it is something that we do really take seriously. And trees, this is the topic of tonight, but trees are very important. And you can drive through newer neighborhoods where the trees haven't grown yet compared to the neighborhoods that have been around for 40 or 50 years with trees, and they look different. And the neighborhoods that were hit hard in our town by the tornado look a whole lot different now than what they did before the tornado. But I personally believe that the trees add value to a community, and just wanted to tell everyone and remind council everything that we're doing to try to help the environment. and sustainability in Horsham.
If I can say real quick, is this going to be posted on the website anywhere? Yes, okay. Just because we have a pretty good turnout tonight. Thank you, everyone, for being here. But I think just getting that out and getting it on social media will be helpful as well. And thank you for your leadership and stewardship.
Anybody
Yes.
else?
That was a fantastic presentation. Appreciate you collecting all that data and having the idea to present all this. It's incredible seeing all the projects, and I think it's noticed when you walk around the parks, it's a lot different than a lot of other municipalities, and that shows just dedicated effort over decades and continues today. So I appreciate all the work of the staff to make sure that that's always forefront. I just had a quick question with the tree giveaway. I know we sort it by species, but just based on the comments tonight, is there any way we could also sort it by moisture level of the area?
Knowing their soil.
I mean, I don't see why not, yeah. I think that
Microphone.
Oh, yeah, you have to go to one of the mics. Otherwise,
do that, yeah, I think
Okay.
that could be done.
did you and Kyle already order the trees for the giveaway?
That's coming up soon.
That's a good question.
It's October 4th.
We could still organize them to some extent about,
Sure, we can organize some.
level of moisture needed.
Okay.
Get an idea.
Yeah, no changes on the ordering or anything, but just like a way that people know, and we can just direct them a little easier, because not everybody wants to or cares to talk to the engineer out there. That helps.
Right, it's good to, know that, yeah, if you plant the right tree in the right spot, it'll grow. If you plant the wrong tree in the wrong spot, it won't. So it's a good thought.
Hey, thank you, Bill. Appreciate it. Next, we need a motion to approve the minutes from our July 9th and July 28th meetings.
I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Next, we need our treasurer's report.
The balance in the general fund as of July 31st, 2025 is $5,917,875.89. For the most part, the activity in all funds reflects budget expectations for July, with revenues in the general fund at 79.56% of budget and expenditures at 52.83% of budget. For a more detailed presentation of our current financial position, I would refer you to your monthly booklet.
I move to approve the list of checks in all funds from July 30th, 2025 to August 13th, 2025 in the amount of $919,262.44 and further move to authorize payment of same. I move to ratify the U.S. Bank credit card transactions for the month of July 2025 in the amount of $11,145.41 and further move to authorize payment of same. I move to ratify checks in the Horsham Township Charitable Fund in the amount of $3,282.50 and further move to authorize payment of same.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. All right, next we need to review the 1336 Limekiln Pike property.
This is a land development plan. Part of it is you've seen for a little while now. This plan is what we refer to as the Worth property in Horsham. Toll Brothers have submitted a land development application for the 34 single-family homes and keeping the historic home for a total of 35 lots. As I said, this is not something new. This plan that we see on the screen has circulated for a couple years in Horsham Township with the Horsham Historical Advisory Commission, with the Zoning Hearing Board, with the Planning Commission. They've been in front of the Planning Commission twice, getting preliminary approval and final approval, and now they're in front of council for your review and their presentation of the plan.
Great. Thank you very much again, Council. Greg Edelman here on behalf of the applicant. And as Bill had provided a quick summary of some of the procedural background, we have the overall plan shown on an aerial superimposed. And just citing you again is that Limekiln Pike is the main thoroughfare from which access will be taken. We're proposing 2 accesses, both being full movement. The overall property itself, which is outlined here in white, is approximately 50 acres. When you net out the proposed right-of-ways, your developable area is about 47 acres. Of those 47 acres, approximately 30 of them will be undeveloped, will be open space or retained as part of the historic lot, which is approximately 3.5 acres. So overall, that leaves open space of about 26 acres, and the majority of it is all contiguous together, running around the exterior perimeter of the property. In particular, there's a lot of natural resources, as we had stated in the conditional use hearing. You have multiple stream corridors running around the perimeter of the property. They will be untouched and not encroached, other than the proposed trail system, which is highlighted in this yellow area here, that then comes back into the property. And we have connections in with the sidewalk system running around the property. Overall, the lots that you see here are the proposed new ones. There's 34 of them. They range in size anywhere from about 17,000 square feet to 27,000 square feet, some of the larger ones in the interior. Proposed stormwater management is located in the low points of the property, and that is obviously fully designed at this point and going through the permitting and review process. What's also shown here on the plan in these little boxes areas are the proposed easements and access ways. I think we have another plan, we don't need to show it, which colors what they're for, such as the water line easement that we talked about in the conditional use hearing. These are stormwater easements in between the lots, and these are also stormwater easements going out towards the basins. This one's a sewer and combined open space access easement. When we initially started this planning process, we proposed the width of the roads to be 28 feet. Subsequent discussions, we've agreed to increase the width to 30 feet so that they could be dedicated to the township, so they would comply with the township's required minimum width. There's a 50-foot right-of-way already provided all around the property, so all of the lots are measured back from that total 50-foot right-of-way requirement, which is standard for the township. The other big items, other than, of course, preserving the historic property here and working with the Historic Commission as part of the special exception and zoning variances approvals to upgrade some of the facades and also repair some of the barn. The other major issue that we talked about with the Planning Commission and Township is dealing with the traffic along the Limekiln Pike corridor. Now, I think your thing just died on me.
Okay.
I got one if you need one.
Yeah, I see the 000.
No, I have extra batteries.
Thank you.
Wanna-
Hold on.
Okay.
I will. Absolutely.
You know Greg, huh?
If not, you know where to find me. So we focused on the Limekiln Pike corridor. Now, when we did all of our traffic studies, nothing was warranted in terms of any type of deceleration lanes or left turning lanes. But when we talked with the township more, everybody talks about what actually happens on Limekiln Pike in that section between Lower State as you're approaching it and also coming from that intersection, that people tend to go pretty fast along this corridor. So hearing that, what we have proposed is to put in deceleration tapers. They are not a full deceleration lane, but they're about 100 feet, starting at about 100 feet out. They kind of come in at an angle, and I'm not sure whether we have that plan or not. Okay. What it does is by the time it gets to the access, you've got 14 additional feet of width, so that allows cars to semi-decelerate and then pull off the road, so that way if a car is behind it, they won't run up against it. They also will have, the driver will have time to clear that thoroughfare. We're proposing those decel tapers in both accesses. So whether you're living on this farther side or the nearer side, if you're turning in, you'll have the ability to get off of that main thoroughfare and allow traffic to continue to come through. The other issue that was raised, which while isn't warranted by PennDOT standards, we've agreed to do, is to create a dedicated left-hand turn lane as you come out of the Lower State Limekiln Pike intersection, to be able to pull and make a left here so you're not in that through lane again. Right now, if you're familiar with the intersection, there's gore striping along the middle section of the road that kind of tapers back into the double yellow. What we're proposing to do, and all of this is subject to PennDOT's review and approval, obviously, because it's their road, but what we're proposing to do is to widen a little bit so that we can create a full left turn lane here. I'm not sure exactly yet how far back it'll go. It's not fully designed, but we certainly can provide enough for people to make lefts here coming in, and that way traffic can continue to go past motorists trying to enter the development. We tried as much as possible with all of these types of improvements to keep in mind that we did not want to encroach upon or ruin the existing streetscape in front of the historic home. We wanted to make sure that that area, which is nicely vegetated and also has some context for the existing home, remains unchanged as much as possible. So that's why we did not look at full deceleration lanes. It's also why we didn't look for a second left-hand turn lane, because you would have to make adjustments coming all the way down this corridor. What we also did was maintain, is this about 100 feet, John?
The buffer?
The
Yes.
buffer.
Yeah.
This area, which is also open space A, we have this about 100 feet in depth, which will be landscaped as well. So that streetscape coming down Limekiln Pike should look pretty nice coming down here. You're not going to be looking into the front or backs of homes. One of the things we'd ask council to consider as part of this approval, given that we're doing these improvements on the road that we don't think are warranted, but we understand the township would like us to do, is to ask for a credit against our traffic impact fee. The traffic impact fee, I think, Eric, is somewhere between $80,000 or $90,000. These improvements will far exceed that. We're also proposing to put in the pedestrian crossing signal as part of this project here for the trail. What we had talked about, I'm sorry, down here. What we had talked about with the township was having the trail connect to the township's future trail. We would start that.
We're going to have a on-site.
Yeah, we don't know where.
I don't know if it's going to be on that side of Pico or the
Or this
other.
side.
Yeah.
Okay, wherever it goes, we're going to work with PennDOT and the township to create another pedestrian crossing so that you have that safe area like you do with the power line trail in multiple locations where people can cross, especially across Limekiln when you need it. So that'll create that pedestrian connectivity, and also we'll be putting this in along the open space area. And where that goes, we're still not 100% sure, but we wanted to keep it out of any wetlands area, out of the stream corridor, which is why in the conditional use you see us really looking at the crossing right where the road is as much as possible. So overall, we think this project is besides the historic benefits.
There's also the trail that goes up to the signal and perfect doing ramps there.
Which one? Oh, I haven't gotten there, you're right, sorry. Mr. Richardson's our traffic engineer, he's reminding me. We are also extending the sidewalk down to Lower State and then adding the additional handicap ramp connections at that intersection to create more connectivity coming all the way down this corridor. Thank you, Greg, sorry. So overall, we think this project not only has the historic benefits that you already know about, but there's a lot of public benefits that are in connection with what's being proposed. Between the open space corridors, the natural resource protection, the trail connections, we think it's a really positive benefit and probably the best use you could get for a decent-sized development on this property, where we're really just concentrating on the existing farm field area and preserving as much of the natural resources as possible. We have had some discussions with the township about the township potentially taking the open space.
Yeah, this is a unique plan, as Greg has been mentioning, but also as council has seen over the last couple of years. It's not your normal development plan, and in this case, it'll be staff recommendation that we do dedicate, the roads do get dedicated to the township, but as well as the open space. We want to protect the open space. We want to protect the Little Neshaminy Creek that runs in the back of the property. as well as the side of the property, those corridors we want to protect environmentally. We want to have control for our trail access. And actually, in our 1995 open space plan, whether or not it ever happens, calls for a trail in the rear of the property that runs along in the rear of the property. So this is unusual nowadays that we would, especially the open space that the staff would be recommending. But this is a unique plan that we need control of the open space.
Would that back end trail lead to the Ukrainian soccer property?
That's the Ukrainian soccer no.
No, okay.
But it's just a plan that, it's in one of our plans, 1995. So whether it ever gets constructed or not, I don't know, but I'd rather be the property owner in case we do want to construct that trail in the future and make more connections than have to deal with the homeowners association.
Question about
Sure.
the trail specifically. So, one, where does it, I just can't tell on the map, where does it connect in with the neighborhood? Like, how would individuals in that neighborhood access the trail from
John,
where?
we have it up in the front, right? Yeah. So it comes straight across the front here.
On
Right.
152?
Limekiln, yes.
Okay, and there's a sidewalk there, though. You're saying that there's going to be
Well,
a
yeah, we're
sidewalk.
gonna have a trail going to here and then sidewalk through the community and then sidewalk. Right here, John? And then coming all the way down to the traffic signal.
So the sidewalk ends at the second entrance? Or,
No, it would come all the way down to, this is the
yeah,
lower state
the
signal.
other way.
All the way down, across our frontage.
And go to an
And
asphalt
then that's a trail. In front of the historic home, it's just
That's
a
right.
trail, not a
Asphalt,
sidewalk.
That's correct.
Okay.
Because we didn't want to add curbing along the historic frontage here. We wanted to keep it natural.
Okay.
Is there a distance between the trail and the
Limekiln Pike. Travel way. It'll be something I've worked out with PennDOT, and it's,
It depends on, each municipality is a little bit different. I've seen it somewhere at least 5 feet to 10 feet.
Okay.
You know,
But it's not just asphalt from the road to.
No.
From
It'll be
the
a
edge
grass
of the
strip.
shoulder, the actual pavement, to the sidewalk or trail typically is a minimum of 5 without curb. And then sometimes I've seen it at 10. I don't know what, Eric could probably chime in on what you've done.
I mean, generally speaking, the further the better from a safety perspective, but understanding it's a historic property, we'll figure out how to.
Right. And there's also a bunch of trees, obviously, that run along the front here, so we'd have to make sure we're trying to preserve them. So it may meander a little bit.
Is there, and I know there's a riparian corridor, we just talked about that a lot. Is there an opportunity to like put a bridge over it so that can be like a full circle of a trail instead of a dead end to nothing?
It's pretty substantial when you come back through here. We actually looked at, and the original proposal was running one through here, and it actually becomes very wetlands and very substantial. So anything you do back there is going to really impact the natural resources. So that's why we went where we already have a crossing in this location, because we figured that had the most minimal impact. Trying to do something back here, it's very difficult. That's why we just avoided it. And from an environmental standpoint, I'm not talking about from a functional standpoint. And I don't know if the township ever evaluated, as Bill was saying, back here as well. It's very environmentally sensitive. So.
Yeah, when that plan was developed, it was just, nothing like that was looked at. It was just a committee that was put together to draw lines on a map.
Yeah.
So nothing environmentally was looked at back in those times.
I mean, we actually think that at some point when this gets extended, you're probably coming back this way and then working your way up into where Warrington.
Yeah, the goal is to, whether we wait, I don't want to say it, but, we know the Kohler family and Nate Kohler, when he calls it, there's no one behind him for farming. So at some point in the future, luckily Nate is still young and hopefully has many years to go. But when the time comes, or if we want want to approach the Kohlers prior to any development to see if they would give us a trail easement through the rear of their property out to County Line Road so we can match up with County Line and Chestnut, so we can match up with the Warrington Bucks County trail system, which is at Chestnut and County Line.
Right. So the idea was to filter everybody from the community here back out to the main thoroughfare to pick up the trail over here, as opposed to trying to have a crossing somewhere through that environmental area.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate the long-term thoughts. Also in the short term, it's, you know, a trail to nowhere. And I just think it would be nice for anyone in that area if it did, like, just do like a full loop, make it like a nice walking trail. I understand the difficulty.
And Greg, I think you mentioned it, but because you're not taking it as far back is why you're agreeing to take it
This
on
way.
the other side of the road up into the township park
Yeah.
in exchange for that.
Will it connect anywhere? Like, what is it connecting to there?
Nothing yet.
This is the, let's see my point of work. So this is the Hawks, these are the football fields, some of the fields right here. So what we got to do is probably bring it down, and then Public Works has to pick it up and take it and do a trail to the parking lot of the Hawks fields.
That's fine.
Sure. So overall, we've gone through the review process. We don't have any issues with Eric's review comments. They're all will comply. In the process, we've gotten a review for sewer and water as well. There's some technical comments there. We are in the process of putting together the HOP application, which will actually go through with the township as well. The stormwater management, NPDS, have we submitted yet?
Not yet.
Not yet. So we have to submit that and go through that process as well for the stormwater management. Otherwise, we think the plan's in good shape in terms of its layout. It really hasn't changed much since 2 years ago in terms of the special exception application. We're happy to answer any questions council might have. We're happy to go through any review comments that the professionals may have. But at this point, we're in a position we would like the council to consider preliminary final for this project as we move forward, conditioned on compliance with everything.
Going through any of those waivers?
Oh, yeah.
That we're going through.
I'm happy to do that as well.
Anybody have any questions before we go through the waivers?
I have like a question on the waiver.
Okay.
We table it.
Ask it when we get to it.
Yeah, okay.
Before we get to the waivers, just one thing, and then, you know, as Greg, as you said, you know, you'll be dealing with PennDOT up here at this intersection, Lower State and Limekill Pike, because you'll be taking the sidewalk and you had to do the handicap ramps and the crossing, pedestrian crossing.
Right.
We have some concern. There is a protected left turn lane, but there's not a protected left turn signal.
Okay.
For people to go on a green arrow and make a left onto Lower State Road.
Right.
Would you and your traffic engineer be willing to look at that possibility with PennDOT as you're looking at that signal permit, that intersection permit application?
Yeah, I mean, we can look at it. We're going to be doing the intersection plans for the pedestrian access. So we can also look at that as well. I'm not sure that's something that we have in our budget, but design-wise, we certainly can look at it. I'm not sure it's going to be warranted. PennDOT obviously has to say whether it's warranted or not in that location, but we can evaluate that in concert with the township. So that way there's only one application going in, given that you're the permittee anyway for the signal.
And I know PennDOT and know their studies well, but I'll just ask you and Greg and Eric to work closely when that time comes.
Sure.
And let the township work with you. I know there warrant analysis and all of that, but we who live in the community, we know traffic patterns, we know safety issues.
Right.
And if we can make, between your team and our team, make something work, I think it'll be good.
Yeah, well, we'll look at that to see if the township wants to have that as an available option for the township to install. We certainly can do the soft costs and the engineering since we're going in for that application.
Because I think, and I know Greg he's itching over there to say something, but.
I don't think it's going to meet it based on volume because there's not enough left turns. Usually you have to have enough left turns versus the through volume. The through volume's there. Well, what you do have is an option now. I'm not sure if PennDOT would consider it because it's not technically a warrant, but that is on a horizontal curve, and therefore they may consider that as a mitigating factor to maybe put one in. But certainly we'll go the length to at least throw it out to them, saying that we're coming to them on behalf of the township, and that see if they throw it out to them, see if it throw it against the wall, see if it sticks.
Yeah, I think it's a safety issue, a safety concern for the township, and we'd like to work with you.
Sure, we'll do that.
Okay.
You had previously asked, which is not part of your waiver, I don't think you put in your, for the traffic impact fee, or is that?
Yeah, I brought that up as a potential condition if we're putting in these other improvements, the decel lanes and the left-hand turn lane, that council consider applying that as a credit against the traffic impact fee. Of course, it's all subject to PennDOT's approval, so.
And I know this would be, I think, the last thing that I have, just to going back to that.
Right.
I don't think, as you already said, PennDOT doesn't see a left turn lane into the development as a needed.
That's correct.
So, and Eric, you said our traffic impact fee for this development is $80,000.
Yeah, it's like just above 80, but for all intents and
So
purposes,
these right turn tapers and this left turn lane into the development, as well as, working with us on the traffic signal, none of them are required. None of them are required by our ordinances. None of them, I don't think PennDOT's already said they're not requiring the left turn lane. So my recommendation is that you allow the credit. $80,000 is not a lot of money when you talk about road improvements, and these improvements will cost more than $80,000. But we all live here in Horsham. We know that section of Limekiln Pike. At nighttime, it's very dark. People travel at a high rate of speed. I think the speed limit is 45, but probably people go 55 plus. So, this development's going to have 35 new, probably young families, as well as the families that already exist. I would recommend you considering let them credit the $80,000 towards these what I call safety improvements.
Are we good with the credit?
Yeah, I agree. 100%.
All right.
I'm done.
Thank you.
We'll go on to your waiver request.
I just want to make a comment
Sure,
before
go
we start the waivers. It's been stated a couple of times, we've seen this a handful of times over the last couple of years, and this has evolved into a particularly nice project. And I just want to say thank you to all you folks for working with the township to get it to where it is today.
You're welcome. We appreciate your help as well in going through this process.
All right, so why don't we start with the first waiver?
Sure. The first waiver, and this is the amended waiver letter from, is that the right date?
Letter?
Actually, there's
Another one. Do you have the other one?
No, I have the old one too. The only one difference is the 30-foot street.
That's fine.
Yeah.
The submission of preliminary plans for preliminary final, that was the first waiver.
Be okay with that?
is this an August 6th letter, or are you going off a different date?
We're July 5th. August 6th, the only difference between the two of them is we're no longer asking for the waiver of the street width of 30 feet 28.
I'm gonna pretend I have.
Is August 6th the most up to date?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah,
That's what we have.
That's what we have in front of us.
We'll say August 6th.
And I am gonna pretend I have that.
Thank you.
in front of me.
No. We're good.
I'm totally fine.
Yeah.
I just saved the wrong one to my computer.
Yeah.
That's my fault. So the second one was dealing with all corner lots shall be a minimum of 1.5 times the minimum width of the interior lots on the same block. Is yours working?
Yeah.
Oh, you put new batteries in? Okay, I can give this back to Bill. And John will go over that.
As you look at the plan, it looks very, very familiar, very similar to the original sketch plan that I think Kennedy Associates put together. Part part of the issue was the corner lots per ordinance are required to have a 1.5 times width compared to other lots in a block. And the Kennedy plan did not adhere to that standard. Granted, it was a sketch plan. So as we moved into it, we widened, actually, these two corner lots, we rotated so they were facing the lesser street. Prior to this, they were facing this one. And we widened them a little bit and narrowed those two a little bit. To make this one bigger, this one bigger, we tightened up the lots in here a little bit. To help this guy get a little bit bigger, we pushed these lots down so where this lot line is in line with this one. Part of that was about 20 feet further in. And all those maneuverings and adjustments, we couldn't get, I think it's 3 lots. Number 8, 25 and 30 to meet that 1.5 times criteria. They're anywhere between 1.2 and 1.4 times. They're almost there, but we couldn't quite get it. Options to make them work would be to move this road over a little bit and squeeze these lots into the open space a little more and cut the historic lot, which we don't want to do. So in lieu of doing those, the things we won't want to do, we're asking for the waiver of those 3 lots.
What are the size of the lots?
They range anywhere from 17,000 to 27,000 square feet, except for the historical lot, which is, I think, 3.35 or 3.5.
So this ordinance requirement is because corner lots have 2 front yards, right? So you want to make sure they're wide enough to fit a decent-sized house so the house doesn't get squeezed on those. They've showed us that the houses on those corner lots are going to be the same size as the houses of the other lots, so we have no objection to the waiver.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just wondering what the size of the lots were.
Yeah, so the 27,000 is a little more than half an acre.
When we worked with them at the staff level, if you look across the street, that's Jasper Lane.
43,000.
That's Chestnut Creek Phase 3. So all of Chestnut Creek is between 17,000 and 25,000 square foot lots. So
25,000, you said is half an acre?
Yeah, it was 43,000 whatever is.
So an acre is 43,000 square feet, so 27,000.
It's a little more.
Almost 2/3 of an acre, yeah.
Yeah, so they're pretty big. We had much smaller lots when we started. And as Bill was saying, the township didn't want to see people coming back for variances for pools and patios and things like that.
Horsham Valley Estates on Babylon Road, I think, is 15,000 square feet, to give you some context.
It is that, yeah, that's helpful because
square
feet mean nothing.
Yeah, so these are bigger than that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now. Well, he was making fun of me when I said it's about a half an acre. He said it's more than a half an acre.
With the corner lots that got adjusted to be wider, are those the largest lots or no?
Yes, corner lots, except for maybe the 2 that have backyards interior. The corner lots are the larger ones.
If we're, I feel like I have to go in a back room. If we're granting a variance on the corner lot, no.
Waiver.
Wait, excuse me.
Yes.
Does it make sense to even them back out again and not have any of the corner
They're still going to
lots?
have the front yard requirements per zoning.
I'll be quiet, thank you.
What's the impervious coverage on these with the homes?
Good question. I forget offhand.
What was your assumed design impervious?
Yeah, what were you maxing?
We were assuming 7,000 in our stormwater management report, which gives, anywhere between a 3,500 to 4,000 square foot footprint for the house, 900 square foot to 1,000 square foot driveway, and another 1,000, 1,500 for the homeowner to use for whatever they might want to use in the backyard or wherever else they might want to use it.
So you think about that, it's like an 8,000 square foot house can fit on these with a driveway, with pool, patio, shed.
Can you put that in a percentage? I'm sorry.
It's, in terms of the lot size, the smallest lot size is a little over 17,000 square feet. So you're looking at about 45% in the lot, but most of the lots average out closer to 20 to 25. So there you'd be less, right? You'd be about 30%. And that's not for building coverage, that's just for total impervious.
So like when they design the stormwater system, they have to assume so much impervious on the lots. They won't build all that impervious day one, but then when future homeowners come in, the township knows, okay, this lot was allotted for 8,000, the house itself was only 5 with the driveway and sidewalks. They know they have 3,000 more square feet of impervious before they'd have to worry about stormwater. And that has nothing to do with a zoning variance, that's just stormwater design.
So I think the question is, a typical property has 20% that they're allowed. These have more than 20% allowed because of the stormwater, correct?
You've got to look at this, the site.
Site overall.
The site overall,
Uh-huh.
because remember how much open space and everything
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
doing? So
No,
the
that's what-
site overall is probably, and I can't.
We're a lot less, oh, sorry, we're a lot less. Impervious coverage.
Like an average homeowner who moves in and wants to add on, and they come with a percentage, it's going to be a higher percentage, correct?
Yes.
Because of, I know because of the open space, because of the storm. Okay,
Correct,
thank
yeah.
you.
Will they be required to have a variance when they come and want to do a patio?
Not until they build the biggest patio you've ever seen and go over.
Right now, I mean, we were trying to accomplish that so there won't be any issues, there won't be any administrative headaches. Somebody comes in for a building permit, they can just look at, your code officials can just look at the plan. They'll say, here's the house that's been built, here's what you're asking for, this is permitted or not. Now, can somebody come in for a variance to ask for more? Yes, but when they come in, the township's gonna say, you were allotted 3,000 extra square feet. I can't believe you can't make do with 3,000 extra square feet on your very large house.
Some of
that you don't
our
have.
newer
I mean,
developments that you've seen come in for variances or for fences and that kind of stuff, there hasn't been one for an impervious that I'm aware of off the top of my head, right? Because we do that for that reason, yeah.
And in all likelihood, once everything's built here, the stormwater basins will still have excess capacity, because I don't anticipate everybody using all of the allotted square footage of coverage per lot. So in the end, I think it'll be a net positive on the stormwater end, but we're just making sure that everything has been afforded some reasonable amount on top of what is shown, so. You're welcome. The next waiver was minimum paved width of minor arterial streets being 40 feet. We're requesting a waiver not to have to widen Limekiln Pike. PennDOT's not going to require the widening, and we already went through in the areas where we think it's necessary, we're putting in decel tapers or the left-hand turn lane.
Sorry, does the left-hand turn lane widen the road?
It will require some slight widening. That gore stripe, if you can think about it, coming out of the intersection, it tapers and narrows back to the double yellow. So we have to widen that taper, so we're gonna probably have to take some space on our frontage
Okay.
to give a little bit more. Yeah,
Thank you.
I don't know how much yet, though. The next waiver is a waiver from curbing being installed on minor arterials. We're asking for a waiver not to have to install curbing along Limekiln Pike. There's no curbing on either side now. We wanted to maintain that rural look. And also, if we put curbing in, then all of a sudden you're changing the draining patterns, have to putting in pipe, and then figure out where to discharge and take it to. So we'd like to maintain the current status of the roadway there.
We're fine with that.
I have a question on that. So there's not going to be a curb, but there is going to be a sidewalk.
Yes. So yes, and we'll have to make sure, again, it's just like with the trail, not have it right up against the paved cartway. We'll be putting it further back, whether that's 5 feet or 6 feet off of the paved cartway, the shoulder. So that way there's separation between the pedestrian walking on the sidewalk and traffic that could be traveling on Limekiln Pike.
Just still that grass buffer.
It'll be a grass strip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Do we have other spots in the township that have a sidewalk but no curb? Yes, okay,
Yeah, so
thank you.
one of the most recent ones is Hallmark Homes built Sussex Court across the street from St. Catherine's on Whitmer Road. So if you're traveling on Whitmer Road, the new homes that were built have a sidewalk but no curb.
Do we, and I know we talked about the other expenses that are going into this.
Right.
We usually collect a fee in lieu of, do we not? On an item like that, or
Not curbs, only sidewalks.
there's only sidewalk?
Welcome. I don't know if there are any more questions on that one. Okay. The next one's a waiver from the maximum grade within any intersection shall not exceed 1%. We're requesting a waiver to permit grade in its proposed intersections to be 4%, which provides better draining along curb lines and lessens the chance of ponding and icing. And John, if you just want to highlight, is it all the intersections internal?
Yeah, it's all the internal intersections. It's not the center line. We're worried about water running along the curb lines of all these. Depending on the geometrics of the slopes, getting it to be 1% or less may generate flat spots, which generates icing in winter time along the curbs and people turning and pedestrians crossing. So we just want to make sure that doesn't happen.
We have no objection to this waiver. 4% is still pretty flat.
No issues with ADA, with the,
Okay. All the sidewalk and curb ramps will meet ADA.
I mean, like going from the ramp to the street?
Correct. We will make sure when they're out there constructing, if they have an issue with their slope, they will be ripping out that curb ramp.
Yep.
Next one is the waiver for proposed street trees being placed a minimum distance of 2 feet outside the right-of-way line. We're asking for a waiver to be able to install street trees along a portion of Limekiln Pike to be installed within the right-of-way. We have the sidewalk proposed along Limekiln extending northerly beyond the property line to that frontage to connect to the Lower State intersection, and there's street trees proposed to be installed along that extension within the right-of-way between the sidewalk and the right-of-way line. So it's that narrow section, limited section, running along Limekiln. We're just asking to put the street trees between the sidewalk and the road, as opposed to the other way around. And that way we're not disturbing the adjacent property owner's property.
We okay with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just that one little area, so we're fine with it. And there's a good reason for it in this case.
The next one is dealing with the stormwater basins. It's a waiver. The requirement is all basins shall have a maximum of 4 horizontal to 1 vertical slope on the basin's inner berm. We're asking for a waiver to permit a maximum of 3 to 1 due to the fact that we're going to have to probably do a managed release concept in this location, given our infiltration testing results.
You guys have given this waiver to just about every basin, so we have no objection to it.
Next waiver is a waiver from the requirement that the maximum difference between the top of berm elevation and the invert elevation of the outlet structure shall be 7 feet. We're again, because of the MRC design, going to have to exceed that 7 feet. The design we have will include a soil media filter that increases that distance between the top of the berm and the outlet invert elevation.
And this is due to the newest NPDES DEP regulations are just adding more layers to the stormwater design above and beyond even what the township stuff requires, so.
So we're okay?
Yeah, freeboard's in
So we're
here
okay,
too.
yes. And like, if we want to cut to the chase here, you guys give the freeboard waiver and the 2% waiver all the time, and again, those
Those are the
meet
next
current DEP standards, so we're okay with it. You've given it in the past.
And
so
then the
I think we
one
keep
after
going.
that is the draining within not less than 24 and not more than 72
Yes.
hours, and the MRC again.
And that water's in the soil, it's not
media.
sitting up top
Right.
causing trouble, so again, we're okay with it.
And then the last one is your storm sewer easements under your ordinance are required to be 30 feet in width. We've proposed 20 feet in width. We believe that gives plenty of access.
Yeah, these aren't deep pipes, again, we've had this conversation before, if the pipe's really deep, we want 30 feet, but their pipes are not that deep, so 20
Right.
feet's plenty of room to rip out and replace that storm pipe if it ever needed it.
And that's it.
Street lamps. Do you have locations for them?
I think they are every intersection.
So I see.
And the cul-de-sac, I
one,
think.
2, 3,
Yeah, they're-
4,
And then I think there's one
5,
back in the
6.
cul-de-sac, I think
Yeah.
so.
So six street lamps.
Yeah, the 2 intersections with Limekiln also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got
Yeah.
light, yeah, and then you got
Yeah,
2.
and you know what, we do have another internal one right along here, and let me check the plan. I
So
think there's one.
how many total?
1, 2, 3,
Just make sure.
4, 5, 6, 7, looks like 8. Excuse me, 8.
8, okay. No, that's good. I just didn't have time to look at that section of the plan. So
Yeah.
I was shooting for 6 and there's 8, so good. Yeah.
Right, right. Right, so 2 at the entrances, 2 at the next intersections, 2 on the bend, 1 at the intersection at the top, and then 1 in the cul-de-sac.
Okay.
I think so, unless you have any other questions.
I got one thing to bring up.
Go ahead, Dave.
I'm looking at the page 5. Mic, please. I'm looking at page 5 of the Gilmore Review letter from August 1st. It's item 6, so it would be 5C6. It has to do with stormwater. It says there's conveyance swales along a lot of the property lines and across a few lots. Permitting fences on those lots may result in negative impacts of stormwater control. Council shall consider the implementation of fencing restrictions. Eric, what would those restrictions look like? Are we thinking about like aluminum fencing, or what would that look like?
The concern is you don't want the fence to go right flush with the ground and be like solid, and then when stormwater needs to run there, all the debris that comes with stormwater gets stuck there. Yeah, so.
We can put some type of restriction on there. You're talking about you don't want a fence going all the way to the ground.
Yeah,
You want
and if it
some
does, it's
clear-
fine if it's like slotted and stuff
Right.
can get through
Yeah.
it, but these people want to put their
Those solid
their
lines.
solid fences, they
Yeah.
put them in, and then it becomes an issue later.
Okay.
That's the concern. I'm sure we can figure out.
Okay.
As long as you're okay with it, we'll figure out a way to.
That's fine.
I haven't given all my cards away. No.
You have another card?
Yeah, I don't expect you to come back, so I just want to, are you planning on development signs? Is this development going to have a name? And usually when we have a homeowners association, we block out that area as the sign, so a resident doesn't remove the sign on us. So are you going to have, do you plan on having development signs?
Yes.
Typically, they
And
do.
will they
and
be in the open space areas?
It would be in probably open space
Yes, 'cause it
A
would
in
be,
the front.
Okay.
most likely at one of these 2 corners.
Okay,
Obviously not this corner, and I doubt even this corner. Most likely be one of those 2.
okay.
Nothing ostentation. It's a small development, and it might be just a welcome to type. This is what we are. And
Okay.
Name of the development.
Do you have a name?
Not yet, no.
Water feature?
We haven't gone that far, but that would be nice.
Thank you.
So my guess is they may have 2, John, in that front corner and then one up there too. Yeah, we'll see. We'll add that detail on the plan.
Okay. Yep. We'll be responsible for the signs, but it'll be on our open space. There's no homeowners, there won't be a homeowners association. Public Works is gonna-
Speaking of the entrance sign, they'd be on, if they're in open space and the township does take open space,
Do an
we'll have an
easement.
easement for the entrance features.
It wouldn't be the only, it wouldn't be the
Right,
first one.
and then the easement would be the maintenance responsibility of all the homeowners. So they can just
You
do
could do
it via a document. It doesn't have to be a full association to have a maintenance responsibility. It's how we used to do it before we had homeowners associations. There used to be a document and everybody said, here's what we'll pay and here's what we do.
That was not done in Horsham.
No, no,
So it's either the homeowners or the township,
right.
so.
Well, we can do it. I used to
Okay.
do it all the time. In fact, I created sewer associations before you even had those things, and people ran sewer plants
Good luck
together.
township getting any money.
Yeah.
To maintain the sign.
That's why you record it against the homes. So we can work that out. David and I'm sure can come up with something fairly generic. We do it all the time for just 2 homeowners who share a driveway.
Yeah.
We can easily do it for 34 homes in a
And we have
development.
good residents, and usually the ones that we do own, the neighborhood comes, there's a contractor, there's a developer, there's someone that lives in the neighborhood that just says, tell me what you want, I'll take care of it.
Right.
So,
When does the street name process take place, and are those already picked out, or?
That will work with you guys. If you have
it's done
recommendations, if
through,
you- we-
it's done, they submit suggested or recommended names, and it gets submitted to the fire marshal, the emergency management, and the county Department of Public Safety, and they're the ones that make the calls on the names.
Do we ever consider, I mean, they're keeping the historical lot, like, would we consider or want to keep some sort of historical tie with the street name to the
We've
property
done that in
owner?
the past.
Yeah, Horsham Valley Estates did that with the owners of the golf course and the street names, so, but we can talk to you about that.
Sure.
Really what the county and our fire marshals are looking for is there's no duplication. So if there's an ambulance call, that there's not a road similar to the same name in Montgomery Township, and there's confusion on the ambulance of where, and they go to the wrong location, so. No, they just get notified.
And we did, by the way, we have a proposed cluster mailbox, we didn't talk about that, but in that location right there, with a little ability, I think, to pull over, right?
Yes,
Didn't we have?
should
There's
be
a
two
little-
parking spots there.
Right.
I forget what year it was, but the United States Parcel Service will no longer deliver to new homes, like mailboxes, so it has to be group mailboxes now. So all of
For
our.
any
all-
new development?
Yeah, it's, all of our new developments in Horsham have that.
I've noticed some, but I didn't know that
It's a
was-
requirement of the Postal Service now that they do not deliver any new homes.
They won't go to your house anymore.
Yep. Anyone of our homes, yes, they will keep delivering to, but any new developments, and I forget what year that was, but it wasn't, it's been in place for a while now.
Is that across all of Pennsylvania or Montgomery? Like, how?
United States.
Nationwide.
Nationwide?
Yes.
Oh.
So there's one not joint, the group mailbox for the entire neighborhood?
That's correct.
Correct.
Whoa, okay.
This, I know the Sussex neighborhood.
They have that, DeLuca Homes that you just approved, they have, they had it on their development plan, a group mailbox.
Yeah, the Regency at Waterside has that as well.
Regency at Waterside.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good sign if you don't see them.
That's right.
That's, yeah. Get out and get some exercise, walk down the road, get your mail.
No more dog fights.
No more dog fights, that's correct. So, all right.
Well, thank you.
No, thank you.
Once again, great job on this.
We appreciate it. Thank you for your time, everything. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
All right.
Do you want any of this back?
Recycle,
Our paperless.
Thank you.
The next will announce that the Carpenter Cross Bike Race is September the 20th from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Lukens Park. Our eco-event, our tree giveaway, electronic recycling and shredding is October the 4th, 9 a.m. to 11 at the Horsham Township Municipal Complex. And there being no further business, meeting adjourned.